What's happening, guys? It's Sir William, and we are back from our trip to Kentucky. So we went from South Carolina to 𝐼𝐶𝐭 Plains, from 𝐼𝐶𝐭 Plains to Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky, and then back down to Johns Mountain Wildlife Management Area in Georgia, and then back up home. And we were running from Hurricane Florence, so we took the dogs with us. We packed big tent, and we got to use the sleeping campers chuck box style setup that I built for the 4Runner for the first time. It worked out phenomenal, and I wanted to go over some of the upgrades that I want to do to Apple. I get a lot of questions about the fact that Apple is stock, and realistically that's one of the perks to me, is the fact that it's stock. I really like the fact that it's stock. I really like the surprised look on people's faces whenever I take this thing and put it in places that, one, most people wouldn't put a 2015 4Runner to, and then two, most people wouldn't think that a stock 4Runner could do. So I really like that aspect of it. However, that being said, there are a lot of times where these modifications would be really handy. So I wanted to do a quick video walk around of the truck, the damage that I've got on the truck for now, as well as some of the things that I've done to the truck as far as the inside camper and how it worked out, and then also what I want to do to the truck. So basically kind of like a list of the different upgrades, the future plans that I have for Apple, and the things that are going to really step her up as far as her off-roading and overland capability. Pretty much unpacked now, but this is the camper setup as I normally have it, with Christy's sleeping platform, and then you have a chuck box right there, and then right down here you have a little 6-inch drawer that kind of slides out. Over there is my sleeping platform. Now we had to bring the dogs with us this time, which is why you see the Plano box and everything up there. That's also why we brought big tent. Big tent there is a 6 foot and something tall tent that we can stand up in. Also because of that, we had to bring the air mattress. So typically if we were just camping by ourselves without the dog, then we wouldn't have to bring any of that stuff. We just bring something so Christy can sleep up there, and then I can sleep right there. And I have a little 4-inch memory foam mattress that does well for that. All in all though, it did fantastic. So this was really the first test of true overlanding with the new camper setup. Overlanding being vehicle dependent travel. It worked out. It was a success. Everything was good. A few changes that I want to make to the chuck box, and I'll kind of go over those next time. Wanted to show you a quick walk around of the vehicle after I got it back, because everybody asked me what kind of damage do you do, different things like that, how beat up is the truck. So I wanted to show you guys. Apple is just in fantastic shape. She's a little bit dirty, and the skid plate down there looks like a, you know, folded up tin can, but otherwise she's pretty clean, right? Whenever you walk over to the side, you can tell that there is some battle wounds over here. You got a little bit of a rock rash. She's not clean right now. I'm sure it's going to look pretty whenever it's clean though. A little bit of rock rash on the guard there, and you can see it kind of peeling up right here. So interested to see how that's going to look. That was when we came down pretty hard on one of the trails there at LBL. And then that scratch that you see is actually from 𝑼𝐴𝐴. I hit a branch that I had moved out the way in order to not hit it, and you see how well that worked out, right? So then moving on to the back, I did do an extra little thing right here. So that was already messed up. That's the reason that the Band-Aid was there, but we went ahead and we did a double ouchie right there. So now I need to get another Band-Aid made up for LBL. Perhaps I can get one that says something about I followed the lunchbox through LBL, and I'll put it right over that. Going back to the other side over here, really nothing over here. This side doesn't see a whole lot of damage, and the reason is because it's easier to see this side, right? It's easier to make sure that you got good clearance on this side because it's the driver's side. So not too many problems here. On the front here, this silver piece is pretty banged up. Realistically, I can go and hang with the best of them when it comes to going off-road and stuff like that. Are there limitations? Yeah, there's definitely limitations. The limitations are it's got pretty small tires, so it's harder to roll over some of the stuff. Another limitation is going to be the clearance is obviously an issue. Because of its stock height, there's barely any clearance, so that's a limitation. Because of the clearance issue, the departure and approach angles are seriously affected as well. So that all being said, I think the modifications that I want to go with on the 4Runner are going to be on the front here. I want to replace just that silver piece with, there's a hidden winch bumper type thing. I think it's called a hybrid bumper, and that would give me as a skid plate as well as I think maybe a little bit more clearance. As far as that skid plate down there, I'd like to replace it with the TRD skid plate. I've got to cut it out or notch it out because of the KDSS, but that's probably what I'll end up doing, or just trying to make one. Rock sliders. Rock sliders are pretty cool. I definitely need some rock sliders. I'm starting to find that more and more. I think what I'm gonna do is hook up with somebody that can help me make some rock sliders. Back bumper hangs extremely low. I've already ripped off the silver piece, as you can see, and I've already ripped up other corners and parts. I think that I'm going to go ahead and rip it completely off and make some kind of like a tube style bumper or something like that. One of the plated bumpers would be really cool. The only problem with that is the fact of cost is a lot. So you'll notice down there also the spare tire. The spare tire being down there is obviously not the most ideal location, and the reason is because it gets hung up on everything. And when it gets hung up, it's basically like an anchor. So I would like to move that. I'm thinking what I could do is on the hitch there, I can either buy or get something built that would swing out and allow for the spare tire to be up there. Another option that I'm considering is building a custom rack. I found a guy that's on YouTube or on one of the forums that has built a custom rack for the 4Runner, and I think he did it in like $300 materials. So pretty stoked about that. I would definitely like to try that. You know, building a custom rack. If I built the custom rack, it would come out as close to the windshield as I could possibly get it. That way I would have as much room. With that custom rack, I will put some solar panels on it, and I may, if I can't find the swing out thing, then I might would put the spare tire up there. I'm still kind of up in the air on that. Definitely need those rock sliders, which again, I'm probably just gonna find somebody that can weld me up some tubes and some brackets, and then we'll get that straightened out. The ultimate question, right? Lift, wheels, tires, yada, 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 yada. So when we talk about wheels and tires, I like the stock wheels and I love the BFG all-terrains. That being said, I don't really care to upgrade either the wheels or the tires themselves. So if I could find an alternative tire that works just as good as the BFG, which I've really had a hard time finding. If it was a little bit cheaper and it worked just as good as the BFG, then I would consider it. But I really, really like these BFG all-terrains. The wheels I like. The only thing I don't like is the clearance. So maybe if I could somehow get a lift, get a little bit more clearance, and get a little taller tire, then I would do it. I would not make it any wider, but I would like to make it just a slight bit taller. So as far as lift goes, I get asked this question a lot. Man, why don't you put a lift on that thing? Well, I would like to put a lift on it, but I also like stock driving, right? I like the way that it handles. I like all that good stuff. Now, if that could be improved, then yes, absolutely, I would put a lift on it. And I think that it can be improved. So the first thing to be upgraded in the suspension will be the upper control arm. I just bought a used upper control arm to replace the one that I blew out with, and the reason is because I'm planning on redoing the suspension at some point. There's a 2-inch spacer in there, and the reason that I did the 2-inch spacer was because I scraped a whole lot the very first trip that I made out west whenever I went to Moab, and the reason that I scraped so much, I want to say, was because of the front end seems to sit a little bit lower with the KDSS. People will argue with that day in and day out. Being at the dealership, as long as I was at the dealership for 12 hours a day while working there, I've looked at these things and looked at these things and looked at these things, and the KDSS does make the front end sit just a slight bit lower from what my eye can tell. Now, your eyes might be different, I don't know. But that being said, I put the 2-inch lift on there. On the front, you can see how it sits. So it sits relatively level. Whenever I change out that upper control arm, I've got to do a little bit more research, but I think I would want to also change out the lower control arm. As far as the coils there, I'm thinking maybe like a Fox or Icon setup. I had an Icon setup on my Toyota Tundra, which I really, really enjoyed with the Icon upper control arms and everything like that. That was a great setup. So I'm thinking something like that. I don't know if you can put the TRD Pro shocks on there, but realistically, that would be all that I'd really need and want. No more than about 3 inches of lift. That's all you really need. And that way you keep the geometry of everything relatively the same. Okay, so let's recap. The things that I want to do to the 4Runner. Up front, that winch with the hidden bumper. Wheels and tires are good. I do want to upgrade the tire size a little bit. In order to do that, I will need to lift it. So upper control arms to rid it of that weak point, as well as getting about 2 or 3 inches out of some sort of lift, either 𝐵𝐵𝐶, Fox, Icon, some kind of deal like that. In the back, we're going to lift it up too. And then down on the side there, some rock sliders, just some custom joints that are, you know, out of some round tubing would be fine for me, or square tubing, either one. Doesn't have to be real pretty for my taste. On the back here, we're going to change out that bumper. Again, some kind of square round tubing would be just fine with me, as long as it works and it's functional. That's all I care for. The plate bumpers are entirely too expensive. We're going to relocate that spare tire down there. So we're going to upgrade that to some kind of swing out or hitch mounted swing out, or some kind of deal like that. If I can find one cheap, then I'll buy it. If I can find somebody to make one, then I may do that. Or we may just mount it up top. I'm going to redo that roof rack with a custom roof rack, make it the size of the roof itself, upgrade that shower to where it's got PVC piping instead of the ABS piping, so we could actually drink some of the water should we need to. And then on the inside, what I'll do is I'm going to redo that eventually in a lot more of a pretty manner. So I think whenever I redo it, I'm going to redo it out of aluminum tubing and 𝐵𝐸𝐸 connectors. So, that'll be really nice and pretty eventually, but right now I'm just kind of using it and getting the hang of it, see how I want the final design. As far as anything else on the interior, the only thing that I will say that I would absolutely love to change would be those seats. Those seats are incredibly uncomfortable. So I would change that. Also, if I could get some kind of switch mod or switch pod type system made up there at the very top, then I would do that, and maybe have some LEDs mounted on the outside for camp, just to add. One thing I just reminded myself while I was sitting here doing the walk around, I got some badass stickers for Apple. So a lot of people collect like patches and stuff like that. Me, I like stickers. I'm a sticker freak. I've always been a sticker freak. But nonetheless, that's what I do. So this one's pretty cool. Means a whole lot to me. I really like it, and the reason is because it's exactly what it says, right? Closure isn't management. A lot of times I think there's more stuff that could be done, both from the community that uses the land, and then on the community that's supposed to manage the land. So that's why I like that one. This one right here came from Rob. This was one of my first subscribers, and he's actually the one that that invited me out to the whole get-together at LBL. So I really appreciate it, Rob. His story is fantastic. He's got a granddad that's in his 90s, and they've gone all over the place and done some crazy adventures together, and it's really cool. Go check out his channel. It's Overland Generation on YouTube there, and cool cat. Thanks, Rob, for the sticker, and thanks for the invite, and thanks for the time, man. Hell yeah, got them both on. Appreciate it, Rob. Thanks, American Adventurous.